I was really lucky when I was a graduate student. There's this really old building designed by I.M. Pei up in Manoa. It's called Hawai'i Manoa, and it's one of the last spaces of, frankly, affordable, attainable housing for students. It is so old. The only reason I went to graduate school is because I got a scholarship that let me live there. That's what determined my decision to go to graduate school at UH, was that guarantee of housing stability. I was lucky enough later on to live for a year at 801 South over there. There's the fanciest place I think I've ever lived. I lived there for 1 year, but then the rent went up. So I moved back to where I grew up. I moved to Aiea, and I love Aiea, so it didn't really feel like a punishment to me. I could get on the bus, take the 54 down to Honolulu, and I own a car still, but it just sucks driving. I don't like driving. My girlfriend knows that I really hate driving. She's here. Um, but, even with all of that, I know that I don't wanna rent forever. I feel like the rents just keep rising, and they're rising faster than my income, and that's just a reality for a lot of people. I think the rents just keep rising. Uh, so yeah, I now live in Waipahu. I keep moving further and further west, further and further away from 801 South. And it's not a bad thing, I think. I get to live with my girlfriend's family, and they're such awesome people. But I live next to monster homes, and the monster homes are the norm. And I just can't help but think that in order for me to survive and save up, if I ever even want to make a down payment, I think Cole mentioned it earlier, make a down payment on an old condo here with a $1,000 HOA fee. If I even want to do that, those are the sacrifices that I have to make just to live here. We should be aware too that other places across the United States are also grappling with a housing shortage. And a lot of the things that we are looking at right now, in terms of as solutions, they're modeled on other communities that are facing very similar problems. I actually think that that's really hopeful, because a lot of the root causes of today's housing shortage are the product of decisions that policymakers made decades ago, and they largely just copied and pasted ordinances and regulations and laws from other states without without really thinking about what Hawaii needed and how Hawaii was unique. And we see that play out in Maui, if we're being honest. Maui looks like it was copied and pasted from California in many respects, and that's because its zoning code was copied and pasted from similar communities in California. And today you have a culture in Maui that is heavily car dependent, and folks who are cash strapped are worrying about their car insurance, and they're worrying about the cost of gasoline, which is higher here than it is in many other parts of the United States. I think that's my way of saying that um, there are inspiring things that are happening across the United States when it comes to getting rid of the barriers to increasing home supply for the residents in other communities. I think Hawaii has to be willing to recognize, and this is perhaps where we need to shift our cultural thinking. We need to recognize that we've largely copied and pasted a lot of what we do today from other places, and we need to be comfortable with reform. And we also need to be willing to be a little more original culturally with how we approach housing stability for residents. I'm thinking a lot about how in the 1970s, folks got really scared of population growth here in Hawaii. From 1960 to 1970, the state population rose from about 600,000 to about 730,000. So that was a large increase. And a lot of that increase was focused on Oahu. Oahu responded by beginning to institute a comprehensive zoning ordinance that put in place parking requirements, that put in place restrictions on development. That, in the long term, is what increased the cost of development here in Hawaii. That's what increased the cost of housing. And today we are living with those ramifications. We need to be comfortable with admitting our faults, and we need to be comfortable with admitting that there are solutions from other places that are very appropriate to Hawaii.